Renuka, the editor of Forbes Africa. Today, I'm in conversation with one of South Africa's most accomplished leaders in business, a woman who's also well known in corporate Africa. I'm talking to Louisa Mojela, the group CEO and co-founder of Wiphold, or the Women Investment Portfolio Holdings, which is one of South Africa's best known first generation empowerment companies owned and led by women. Wiphold is as old as the South African democracy, and for over 26 years now has given financial power to grassroots Black South African women. And Miss Louisa has also been on the cover of Forbes Women Africa in April 2014. Louisa, a pleasure, an absolute pleasure to be speaking with you here today. You're in Johannesburg. Let me start by congratulating you. You've just been awarded a Doctor of Commerce degree by the Stellenbosch University in Cape Town for your leadership in establishing platforms to empower women in Africa. Can you tell us a little more about this recent honor?
Thank you, Renuka. It really was a wonderful honor, and I couldn't be more grateful to the university to have conferred me with this honorary doctorate in economic and management sciences for what they said was my leadership in establishing platforms towards the empowerment of women.
So, I mean, that's definitely inspiring, Louisa. And, I just want to go back to 1994 when you spearheaded, and since then you've spearheaded more than 26 years of investment success at Wiphold, building a sustainable model and investments in key sectors of the economy. And I know when I met you for the first time in 2014 with Wendy Luhave and Gloria Sorobe, you started Wiphold as part of the WIP 4, just weeks before a free South Africa was emerging from the dark shadows of the apartheid in 1994. And then you also became the first women-only empowerment company to list on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange in 1999. Can you just take us back to some of those highlights, some of those anecdotes from that time in terms of the many setbacks and challenges and the final triumphs that you experienced?
Indeed, Renuka, we were the trailblazers insofar as empowerment of women is concerned. Wiphold, as you correctly say, we established it in 1994, just prior to the democratization of South Africa, of our country. What we realized was because Gloria and I, we were working for Standard Merchant Bank, and the very first BEE transaction were done at Standard Corporate Merchant Bank, and this was Real Africa Limited and New Africa Limited. Gloria was in the corporate finance. I was in the emerging market division of a Standard Corporate and Merchant Bank. And of course, Wendy, as usual, she was already an entrepreneur in her own right, and we used to use her office. What then transpired was that Wendy and I, we attended a workshop that was conducted by the now Minister of Finance, Mr. Honorable Tito Mboweni. And typically what we found in that workshop, it was full of men. And the essence of the workshop was just to sensitize us as South Africans that with the new dispensation, there's going to be opportunities, entrepreneurial opportunities, business opportunities, economic opportunities, and all myriad of opportunities. But as I say that what we realized was that the room was full of men, but immediately we then decided with Wendy that of course, we cannot expect these men to invite us to any opportunity. We must create our own opportunity. We must make sure that we will not miss out on what is being ushered in the country, which is going to open up opportunities for many of us who have been previously disadvantaged. And immediately, Wendy invited Nomhle, I invited Gloria. And of course, Wiphold was then established.
That's absolutely fantastic, Louisa. Truly a landmark model. I mean, we always hear about the strength of the Wiphold model, and your strength was in the numbers, and you gave these women a true sense of ownership and empowerment. And I was just looking at your website. It says that the board of directors of 80% women and executive directors 100% women. That's absolutely fantastic. You've managed to stay on course with your objectives. But what is it that, what are the focus areas now in driving broad-based empowerment initiatives? What are the areas that you're focusing on, particularly now in a COVID environment? Has this mandate changed in any way at all?
Well, our mandate has not changed, but we continue to incorporate new ideas, new strategies, just to make sure that the company continues to be sustainable and revolves with the times of the day. Yeah. So one area that we also try to emphasize on is agriculture. Yeah. Because we believe that as a company, the people that we represent, there's many women, most of them are from rural areas. And that's where the issue of food security is mostly a challenge. Yeah. So that is one area that, or sector that we have incorporated in our strategy. And we want to encourage our women beneficiaries, our women shareholders to make sure that as we embark on the agricultural sector strategy, they also in their own right, because if you are in a rural area, surely the land is there, is available. Of course, what you will require will be the agricultural implements, yeah, like your tractor, your seeds, and so on. And we've always indicated that we are willing to provide those to women to make sure that we support them in attaining that food security dream.
You've also more recently founded the Buffalo, if I'm pronouncing it right, the Bioscience and Wellness Company. And this has made you a trailblazer for women in a very unlikely industry, but a growing industry, the cannabis industry. So how are you creating new social and transformational development opportunities in this new growing industry that's now estimated to be worth billions?
Indeed, the cannabis industry is regarded as one of the future industry in terms of the size in the economy and so on. So I wouldn't necessarily also say I'm a trailblazer in that regard, because we don't know what other women are doing in other parts of the country. But yes, let's say for this region, looks like yes, I'm the first to participate in the cannabis industry. It's amazing that yet again, just like Wiphold, the cannabis industry is an industry also that has a capacity to empower and capacitate women. We find that when it comes to the cultivation of the cannabis itself, you are better off with women employees than men, because they have, they nurture these plants, because a cannabis plant requires to be looked after, to be nurtured, and just like a baby. Yep. So women are to do that.
True. So
this has to be looked after, to be nurtured, and just like a baby. Yep. So women are to do that.
True. So this is in Lesotho.
Yes, this is in Lesotho. I founded the company in 2018, just immediately after the government of Lesotho legalized the growing and cultivation of medicinal cannabis in Lesotho. I must emphasize that this is for medicinal purposes. Right. It's not for recreational like what has been legalized here in South Africa. Remember that South Africa is legalized. Yes. Recreational cannabis, provided you plant it within your yard. In Lesotho, it is for medicinal purposes. And of course, what I realized immediately was I do not know anything about this industry. However, I have a license, and for me to be able to grow the business, I needed to have strategic partners, people who have the know-how of the industry. And to that extent, I then partnered with a company that has its cannabis operations in California, in Oregon, and in Nevada. It's called Halo Collective. We partnered with them, and the company, they are providing all the necessary strategic inputs into the company, the management know-how, and everything. And currently, for a company that effectively became in operation in 2020, we have a staff complement of about 140 people. Okay. So we will grow the cannabis, we'll cultivate, and right now we also have plans to extract the oil from the cannabis. And the plan also is to export the biomass in UK and Europe and Australia.
So I just want to come back to now, in the wake of COVID-19, as we all know, the pandemic has further deepened the inequalities that are already existing on the continent, whether it's be it unemployment, poverty, even gender equality. What have your own experience been running Wiphold, and what do you think is the future for South Africa's, the South African economy? It's the second biggest economy in the continent, and then of course the emerging economies in Africa. How are we going to survive this?
I think it's fair to say, Renuka, that COVID, this virus, many families have been devastated by the virus. We still obviously do not know when will the end of this virus, when are we gonna say, now we are clear, now there's a light tunnel, particularly because when you look at countries like ourselves, when and how are we going to see a number of especially the vulnerable people being vaccinated?
Yeah.
See in many countries that the 60 years and above, they will announce that so many have been vaccinated, and so many of our essential service providers have been vaccinated. But we are still far from that as a country. But one wants to believe that there is a glimmer of hope out there. We must remain hopeful, but more importantly, as a country or as citizens in particular, we need to make sure that we stick and observe those protocols. Yeah. Because this virus is vicious. Yeah. We need to make sure that we mask at all time, we wash our hands, all those things that we're being told, social distancing, few crowds, and essentially we must stay home. That is the onus that should be on all of us as citizens. So I think what also a highlight is, thank goodness, so far at Wiphold, we have not had any one of our employees, fatally affected by this. We are all operating from home. No one is in the office. And we have also been fortunate in the sense that, as you may be aware, that there are companies which had to retrench their employees because of COVID. And some companies had to cut the salaries of their employees. And fortunately, we have not been affected in any way at Wiphold. Mm-hmm. Our employees, staff complement is still the same as it was before COVID. Nobody's salary has been cut, but we all operate, from home. So when you ask, what do we think is the future of businesses? I don't think we all ever contemplated that we will be doing business in the way, in the manner that we are doing now. If it wasn't for COVID, I'm sure you and I will be meeting face to face, doing this interview face to face and not through a Zoom. But fortunately, technology is always one step ahead of anything else. Here is technology. We are being able to do the things that we need to be doing. Businesses continue. We hold our meetings through Zooms or through Teams, whatever the case may be, and we continue. But there is no doubt that COVID has really been devastating in communities, and I really don't know how to put it, but devastating virus.
Indeed. Louisa, I mean, unfortunately, this will be the last question for the interview. I could have gone on and on with you, but some parting words from you. I just read, there was a report that was released last week, the World Economic Forum Global Gender Gap Report, saying that the progress of women's empowerment has come, the COVID-19 pandemic has set it back by several years. So what do you think is the future of women's entrepreneurship on the continent? I mean, what is still limiting us in achieving complete parity in every sense?
I think as women, we must always make sure that where there are obstacles, we turn those obstacles to our own opportunities. Because if you look at the likes of Wiphold, we did not have to wait for anybody to invite us and to say, here's an opportunity, come and take this opportunity and run with it. We always have to make sure that we are in the forefront, we are proactive, knowing very well that the obstacles will be there. Knowing very well that the obstacles will be there, but as I say, let's try to turn those obstacles into opportunities. We will succeed. Success is never easy. It's a long road. So, and we must always just be steadfast and make sure that we have our eyes on the ball, and those eyes must be on the fact that we want to succeed and nothing should be stoppable in front of us.
Thank you so much for those words of advice, Louisa. It was an absolute pleasure talking to you. I was talking to Louisa Mojela, the Group CEO and co-founder of Wiphold here in South Africa. Thank you so much for watching the special of Forbes Africa.